activity. Whereas Japan thrived on obedience and essentially without any conformity, and that's what made them so powerful manufacturing. And they're doing cars cheaply and they're exporting those cars, right? But the internet economy that burst onto the scene and really born in the Silicon Valley didn't favor conformity. It favored a huge outburst of creativity. And so the US economy then dominated the world again through the internet and everything that's come with the internet and these huge multi-trillion-dollar companies now that came out of the internet age. So then we go into a period of darkness that we're coming out of. And I don't want to dwell on what's been going on in the American politics for the last 15 years that is so horrendous, but it's just to focus on the fact that you have an Elon Musk who was made in America and could only happen in America, could never happen in Europe. Europe is not entrepreneurial whatsoever. Asia is very conformist. It's not entrepreneurial in the same way. And so Elon has given back. He was created by America. Now he saved America effectively with the partnership with Trump. And they're setting the stage for a massive comeback on the world stage. So yeah, I've been bearish. Yeah, I'll tell you what I see happening. So here in El Salvador, we have another program called Node Nation. So high school students all over the country are creating their own Bitcoin nodes. And it's going to be the most noded country in the world pretty soon. And what happens is there's a transition where the people who are hodling Bitcoin on their nodes at home, there'll be a crossover point where the home capital ownership will be greater than the state's capital ownership. And then you'll see that flip from a centralized nation state to a decentralized nation state. And you get to the point where whoever is governing the nation and taking care of things like taking out the garbage and engaging in defending the country from outside threats, they will have to go to the nodes and get their buy-in on spending money because all the money will be owned by the nodes. The paper money will all go to zero, as it always has throughout history. The nodes will have all the capital so that there will be no central bank. It'll be a decentralized capital structure owned by the citizens who then get to decide what the country as such might engage in and volunteer their money for it or not volunteer their money for it.
Ben Franklin famously had said when they came out of the Constitutional Congress to a woman who asked, what do we have?
Hodlers. So if this all works the way I hope it works personally, it would be that by the time Bukele wraps it up in 4.5 years, the wealth of the nation will be owned by the people of the nation on their nodes. And we'll have a decentralized governance model on the nation state level.
Plus, there's been 40 years of losing here. Yeah. Almost 50. Yeah, 45 years of losing. And so to have 45 years of just losing and having to flee the country, that was the number one hope for your child, is that they could flee the country and go to America. And now it's the opposite. When you're suddenly winning, you don't want to go back. But also we're shifting that mindset to be a Bitcoiner. Think of Bitcoiners and think of all these confident assholes like Max. Back when Bitcoin was $300, I just saw Bitcoin Magazine just tweeted a link of a clip of Max at $300 Bitcoin saying it was going to be $1 million. Think of Hal Finney before there was even a price to Bitcoin saying it was going to be $100,000, right? This is the attitude of a Bitcoiner. They were already, even before there was a Preston Brightest come here to El Salvador to move here, to live here, to build here, to teach our students here because of what he has done to transform a nation. But look through history. It's not hard. I mean, it is hard to find somebody like him. There are very, very few. There's a couple dozen men throughout history. In terms of calling him a dictator, these are the same people that said that 81 million Americans just voted for Hitler too, right? We know it's an absurdity, and we know that they're the ones that are projecting onto others their own mindset. They're the ones that we found through the Twitter files from once Elon released them, that they were the ones shutting down discourse and free speech. They're the ones that are saying on the news only 2 or 3 days ago, saying that whatever happens with the election, we need to shut down Elon Musk. I think that was Rachel Maddow on a mainstream press in America on the cable news. And you're like, that's the mindset of an authoritarian. That's how you think when you're an authoritarian. So they were, I believe they're just projecting onto President Bukele because, you know, he's rejecting their paradigm of failure and
dream. And I know this is totally anecdotal, but like every person that I would talk to, even if I was in a cab, whether it was in El Zonte, Bitcoin Beach, or San Salvador, I would ask, like, what do you think about President Bukele? You know, being a little mini journalist, I was like, what do you think? What do you think? I did not hear one person say anything bad about him.
100% positive rating.
Yeah.
Okay. If he were on, you know, Google reviews as a pizza joint, it would be rated 10, 100,000, right? No negative review at all.
So President Bukele is the highest rated pizza joint of heads of state.
So let me ask you, because Elon Musk has recently visited, he's had so many high profile people in El Salvador, but I didn't see any mention of Bitcoin when people talked about that visit or even the Tucker Carlson interview. I was really looking for a Bitcoin part of that conversation. Do you know if those conversations happened and why aren't they more public? Why aren't more of these people talking about the Bitcoin component of El Salvador's success?
So think of it. He also went to Argentina, be seen as like pumping his bags or whatever. Like he doesn't want to be involved in that, but you just watch what he does. And that's what I think is the important message.
Well, I think we need an updated Bitcoin focused interview with President Bukele, and I'm going to cross my fingers that maybe I can do it in the future.
Yeah.
Update us on, there's some cool things happening in El Salvador right now with the volcano coffee. I got sent some. I was so grateful. It was delicious. And also the golf invitational. So let's talk about those. The Bean of Fire. There you go.
This is Bean of Fire. This is President Bukele's own brand. He grew this himself. Like he's a farmer, a coffee farmer now. And this is for Christmas. You could buy this. This is $120 and you get 4 bags of volcano coffee. And again, like you have to, don't trust me, verify. Like, and I know you have verified this, Natalie, but volcano coffee is different from anything else. There is so much energy in it and it is so crisp and clean and just such a nice flavor. It's hard to describe. Max and I, it's just real
speakers for that. So it's kind of like a conference too. And this is going to be the first of an annual event. So this is really the Bitcoin lifestyle here in El Salvador. We came here when they made Bitcoin legal tender. We've been living here for 3 years. Now we're living the Bitcoin life with sun, coffee, golf at the country club, swimming at the beach, right? It's a lifestyle. You know, the Max and Stacy brand is the Bitcoin El Salvador lifestyle. Live it on January 10th and 11th, but it is completely sold out.
And is there a purse in Satoshis?
Yeah, there's the first prize is a custom made orange jacket, which is a $15,000 creation. That's being done in Italy. You can win a car if you hit a hole in one on one hole. Another hole in one hole, you get a whole Bitcoin of $76,000. We got watches. We've got all kinds of prizes. I got hundreds of thousands of dollars at the prizes.
And I want to say Bean of Fire will be there. We'll have some coffee mocktails and cocktails. And importantly, like one thing I want to say about this Bean of Fire coffee, you can buy some at beanoffire.com, but
is going and the cost of houses. What do you say to people who feel like even accumulating a little bit of Bitcoin or a couple Bitcoin is just not enough today?
Right. Well, 2 points. Number one, everything goes to zero against Bitcoin. So everything you have that's not Bitcoin in terms of purchasing power is going to zero against Bitcoin. Stocks, bonds, fiat money, your property. So the only wealth you're ever going to have going forward is your Bitcoin wealth. So you need to start accumulating immediately because every single thing that you own is going to zero against Bitcoin, number one. Number two, there's an equal argument to be made against those who are too early into Bitcoin, like myself. And what I mean by this is that we were at a meetup, the halving party in El Salvador. And this 9-year-old kid comes up to me and said the exact same thing. Am I too late for Bitcoin? And I'm looking at this 9-year-old and it suddenly struck me that, you know what, I'm too early in Bitcoin because the world that will be built because of Bitcoin will happen after I'm gone. I won't see it. I'll be dead. Giving him a purpose in life. And his passion, if you've ever talked to him, is education.
Right.
That has been for years, education. And look at the hope.com and all these things are free education. That's what Michael Saylor is about. It's not about the zeros at the end of his net worth. And he said it when he dies, all that Bitcoin goes back into the pot. He's not, I think that's foolish because I know after talking to Satoshi in a dream I had that Bitcoin, you can use it in the afterlife. You can take it with you. So I think Michael Saylor is going to be shocked because he'll die. He'll be at the pearly gates. And he'll say, we only take Bitcoin, Michael, because of what you told us. And we're like, but I gave mine all away. They'll say he has to go to hell. He's going to have to go to hell because he'll be broke. He'll have no Bitcoin.
Yeah, well, I think Bitcoin brings out the best in us, and it does amplify, I guess, who you really are, but it really empowers you. And that goes to what you said, Stacey, about the low time preference, which I think flows perfectly to my last question. I'll never forget the conversation we had in El Salvador where Stacey, your background is media and storytelling, and you talked about how we're in a story and it's the ultimate fight between good and evil. And it's time for good to win. And Bitcoin is this ultimate force for
the stories that came out of this last election that I think is really a reflection of some greater themes here is how critical the Amish community was in Pennsylvania in winning that state. The Amish community is very self-sufficient and they are builders, the famous scenes of them building barns for each other and this type of thing. They are, they reject a lot of the crass commercialization and adulteration of our food stock and our medicine. During the COVID crisis, of course, they famously sailed through the crisis because they didn't buy the propaganda, the government propaganda at that time. And, this is a community that's been in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I told you that my family goes back 300 years. That's in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. The Lancaster Gazette was a newspaper during the Revolutionary War times that my relatives back in that era were the editor of that newspaper. And in the cemeteries in Lancaster, you'll see a lot of Keisers buried there, spelled Keiser. Those are my ancestors. So, and when I was young, we used to go to the Amish country and visit these communities and see what was happening there.